She exploded onto the scene in Bonnie and Clyde, becoming one of the defining actresses of the new Hollywood era. Dunaway balanced glamour with grit in Chinatown and won an Oscar for Network. Later in life, her career slowed, but she remained a symbol of 1970s Hollywood power and elegance, making selective appearances that reminded audiences of her brilliance. The Swedish actor began with Ingmar Bergman films like The Seventh Seal, where he famously played chess with death. Transitioning to Hollywood, he appeared in The Exorcist, Flash Gordon, and Minority Report. In old age, von Sydow charmed a new generation with Game of Thrones and Star Wars, The Force Awakens, bridging eras of cinema. Arkin began as a stage actor before transitioning to film with The Russians Are Coming, The Russians Are Coming. Over decades, he balanced comedy and drama, from Catch-22 to Edward Scissorhands. In old age, he won an Oscar for Little Miss Sunshine, showing that his sharp wit and subtle depth never faded. Born into the legendary Redgrave acting family, Vanessa began her career on the British stage before transitioning to film with Blow Up in 1966. Known for her commanding presence, she became a defining actress of her generation with roles in Julia and Howard's End. In her later years, she balanced acting with political activism, never afraid to use her voice for causes she believed in. Even in her 80s, she continued acting in films and television, admired for her resilience, artistry, and fierce independence. Jones began his career overcoming a childhood stutter to become one of the most powerful voices in cinema. In the 1960s, he gained acclaim in theater before moving into film with The Great White Hope. His deep, resonant voice made him immortal as Darth Vader in Star Wars and as Mufasa in The Lion King. Beyond voice acting, he carried dignity in dramatic roles throughout the decades. In old age, his presence remained iconic, his voice instantly recognizable and cherished by multiple generations. Tyson began her career in the 1950s but refused to take roles that demeaned women, which slowed her rise. She broke through with Sounder, 1972, earning an Oscar nomination. Throughout her career, she embodied dignity and resilience, often portraying strong matriarchs. In her later years, she appeared in projects like The Help and How to Get Away with Murder, earning awards well into her 90s. Tyson's legacy was one of perseverance, integrity, and inspiration. An Irish actor known for his wild spirit, Harris built his reputation with This Sporting Life and Camelot. He was both admired and notorious for his rowdy off-screen life, yet he consistently delivered powerful performances. In his old age, he charmed a new generation as Professor Dumbledore in the first two Harry Potter films, a role he embraced despite declining health. Harris's career was a mixture of raw talent and rebellious energy, ending on a note of renewed adoration. Woodward won an Oscar for The Three Faces of Eve early in her career and became one of Hollywood's most respected actresses. She was also half of one of Hollywood's most enduring marriages with Paul Newman, often collaborating with him on projects. In her later years, she focused on producing and philanthropic efforts alongside Newman. Even into her 80s, she was celebrated for her intelligence, grace, and quiet but profound impact on film. Schell was a Swiss actor who rose to international fame with Judgment at Nuremberg, which won him an Oscar. Known for his sophistication and intensity, he worked across Hollywood and European cinema for decades. In old age, he also became a respected director and conductor. His career reflected the global side of acting, bridging cultures and languages. Bogart began as a matinee idol in the 1950s British cinema, playing charming young men in light dramas. But he grew restless and turned toward complex, daring roles such as in The Servant and Death in Venice. His career shifted from popular heartthrob to respected European art house star. In his later years, Bogart also became a successful writer, penning novels and memoirs that revealed his sharp intellect. He aged with dignity, remembered as both a film legend and a literary voice. Steiger rose to fame with On the Waterfront and won an Oscar for In the Heat of the Night. Known for his intensity and method acting style, he often portrayed morally complex or tortured men. Though his career had ups and downs, in old age he was celebrated as one of the great American character actors of the 20th century. His rugged energy never fully left him. Mercouri was a Greek actress who gained international fame with Never on Sunday and Topkapi. Her charisma and sensuality made her an icon of European cinema. Later, she left Hollywood behind to become Greece's Minister of Culture, fighting passionately for the return of the Parthenon marbles. She aged as both a movie star and a political figure, admired for her talent and her patriotism. Jackson began in British theater and quickly became a commanding screen presence, winning Oscars for Women in Love and A Touch of Class. Known for her sharp intellect and intensity, she stunned audiences with her uncompromising roles. In midlife, she paused her acting career to serve as a member of Parliament for over 20 years. Returning to acting in her 80s, she showed she had lost none of her fire. Seagal started as a dramatic actor in the 1960s with Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, earning an Oscar nomination. Over time, he shifted toward comedy, charming audiences in films like A Touch of Class and Fun with Dick and Jane. In later years, he won a new generation of fans with television roles, most notably on The Goldbergs. He aged as a versatile, likable performer who could move between serious and lighthearted roles with ease. The French actress began her career as a teenager and became famous worldwide for La Dolce Vita and A Man and a Woman. With her striking elegance, she often played mysterious, sophisticated women. Her career spanned decades, with directors like Fellini and Lelouch returning to her talent again and again. In her old age, Aimée remained an icon of European style and poise. Widmark burst onto the screen in Kiss of Death, 1947, terrifying audiences with his portrayal of a psychopathic killer. He later transitioned into heroic roles in westerns and war films. Known for his versatility, he aged into respected character parts, working steadily through the 1970s and 80s. By the time he retired, he was remembered as a cornerstone of post-war American cinema. Saint began in television before winning an Oscar for On the Waterfront opposite Marlon Brando. She later starred in Hitchcock's North by Northwest, becoming a graceful leading lady of the 1950s and 60s. Unlike many of her peers, she kept working consistently, appearing in films and TV well into her 80s. In her old age, she remains one of the last living links to Hollywood's golden age, admired for her grace and longevity. A French actor of immense subtlety, Trintignant gained fame with A Man and a Woman and later The Conformist. He built a career of understated but powerful performances, often in psychological dramas. In his later years, he delivered unforgettable performances in Amour and Happy End, showing emotional depth even in old age. He was revered as one of Europe's greatest actors, aging with quiet brilliance. The Scottish-born Keir became one of Hollywood's most elegant leading ladies, starring in The King and I and From Here to Eternity. Known for her poise and refinement, she often played women torn between duty and passion. Though she was nominated for 6 Oscars without a win, she received an honorary Academy Award late in life. In her old age, she lived quietly, admired as one of the great ladies of classic cinema. Mastroianni embodied Italian charm and wit, becoming an international star through collaborations with Federico Fellini in films like La Dolce Vita and 8 and a Half. He was often cast as the everyman caught in absurd or sensual circumstances. In later life, he continued working in European cinema, showing warmth and subtle humor until his final films. He aged gracefully, a symbol of sophistication and continental style. Signoret rose to prominence in French cinema during the 1950s, known for her smoky beauty and fierce intelligence. She won an Oscar for Room at the Top and worked internationally, balancing glamour with depth. In her later years, she often portrayed strong, world-weary women, reflecting her own lived experience. She aged as both a cultural icon and an outspoken political voice in France. Moreau began in French theater before becoming a muse of the new wave, starring in Jules and Jim, Elevator to the Gallows, and La Notte. She was admired for her sensuality, intelligence, and emotional honesty on screen. Later in life, she directed films and mentored younger artists, her husky voice and commanding presence remaining unforgettable. She aged as a legend of European cinema. Best known as Jethro Bodine in the Beverly Hillbillies, Bayer struggled to escape his comedic TV image, but later reinvented himself as a director and businessman. In old age, he became a living reminder of 1960s television culture, still appearing at fan conventions and interviews. He aged as a symbol of persistence, carving a career outside the Hollywood system. Cardinale, born in Tunisia, became a sensation in European cinema in the 1960s with roles in The Leopard, 8½, and Once Upon a Time in the West. Known for her striking beauty and talent, she resisted being typecast and often chose roles with strength and independence. In old age, she became a cultural ambassador for Italian cinema, respected worldwide for her artistry. Ustinov was a true Renaissance man, actor, director, playwright, and raconteur. He won 2 Oscars for supporting roles and was beloved for his portrayal of Hercule Poirot in Agatha Christie adaptations. His wit and charm made him a sought-after talk show guest, while in later years he worked as a UNICEF ambassador. Ustinov aged as a storyteller, admired equally for his humanity and humor. Moreno broke barriers as one of the first Latina actresses to achieve stardom in Hollywood. She won an Oscar for West Side Story and later became one of the few performers to achieve EGOT, Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, Tony. Her career spanned decades, from musicals to TV comedies like One Day at a Time. Even in her 90s, she remained vibrant, outspoken, and active on screen, a trailblazer whose longevity inspires new generations. Christie became the face of the swinging London era with Darling, which won her an Oscar, and Dr. Zhivago, which made her a global star. Unlike many of her peers, she avoided overexposure, often choosing smaller, meaningful projects over blockbuster fame. In later years, she returned with acclaimed performances in Away from Her and Finding Neverland. Christie aged gracefully, admired for both her acting brilliance and her reclusive, independent spirit. Reynolds was a college football player before becoming Hollywood's top box office draw of the 1970s with hits like Deliverance, Smokey and the Bandit, and The Longest Yard. Known for his rugged charm and humor, he faced career slumps but revived his image with Boogie Nights, earning an Oscar nomination. In old age, he embraced his role as a charismatic survivor of Hollywood highs and lows, remembered for his charm and resilience. Bates was part of the British kitchen sink movement of the 1960s, starring in A Kind of Loving and Women in Love. He balanced stage and screen, often portraying conflicted, passionate men. Later, he worked steadily in both British and American projects, his rugged presence giving depth to every role. In old age, he was remembered as one of Britain's most versatile and respected actors. Daughter of Charlie Chaplin, Geraldine forged her own career in international cinema. She starred in Dr. Zhivago, Cria Cuervos, and Robert Altman's Nashville. Known for her striking, unconventional beauty, she embraced challenging and offbeat roles. In her later years, she worked with new directors, including a part in The Orphanage and Netflix's The Crown. She aged as a respected figure who bridged classic Hollywood and modern art house cinema. Coburn built his career in the 1960s as a tough, laconic presence in westerns like The Magnificent Seven and spy adventures like Our Man Flint. Often cast as a supporting tough guy, he experienced a career lull before making a major comeback in the 1990s, winning an Oscar for Affliction. In his old age, Coburn was celebrated as one of Hollywood's great cool men, blending charisma with grit. Anne Margaret burst onto the scene as the female Elvis with Bye Bye Birdie and Viva Las Vegas. Initially cast as a glamorous sex symbol, she surprised critics with serious roles in Carnal Knowledge and Tommy, earning Oscar nominations. In her later years, she appeared in comedies like Grumpy Old Men and continued performing on stage. Aging with vibrancy, she remains a fiery and admired figure in Hollywood. Wallach began on stage before gaining fame in Hollywood as Tuco in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. A master character actor, he worked with directors from Sergio Leone to Francis Ford Coppola. His career spanned 6 decades, and in old age he appeared in films like The Holiday and Wall Street, Money Never Sleeps. He aged as a true craftsman, beloved for his longevity and adaptability.